welcome back to the Friday Night Music Lounge. It's good to have you here again. We haven't gotten to do this for a while, but I am indeed planning on taking off next week, so I thought it'd be fun to get together one more time before then. And we're going to play some fun music of various sorts. For those of you who are up working late, you have something to work by, and for those of you who just want to hang out and chat, well, have a good time. I'm also going to interject with some items for sale. We did that a couple of times ago, that we did the Friday Night Music Lounge, and people seem to like that. So we'll put some things up, and it'll be very simple the way that works. We're going to have a starting bid, which or a current price, which will be the starting price. We'll put that up, and everything is between $5 and $15 starting. Just a bunch of fun little things. And then we will let you folks, if any of you are interested, you can just put in the price number, and if one of you wants it, then it's yours. And if multiple of you want it, then you can just keep putting in your numbers, and whoever has the high bid at the when it looks like the bidding is topped out, we will play a bell for you. And can we tell what that's going to sound like? There we go. And that'll mean that the bidding is over, and we will announce who the high bidder is. At that point, if you will please send your to the Antique Nomad at gmail.com, if you'll please send your email address, your PayPal address, your mailing address. You'll see this in the ticker crawling here, so it'll be easy to remember. And then I'll be able to invoice you. If you can do that by the end of tomorrow, then we'll get you invoiced, and we'll be able to get things out on Monday. So I guess we'll go ahead and say hi to everybody first. It's nice to have a bunch of you here with us late on a Friday night. A lot of really great people and familiar names, and yes, tiki bar music indeed. That's my kind of music. I do like Hawaiian. I remember I was over in Hawaii when I was writing the Treasure Craft book, and there was a local station that played nothing but Hawaiian music, and that's all I listened to the whole time because it just got me in the mood to write the book. So anyhow, it's just fun to have you with us. Thank you for supporting the new live channel. We're hoping to do more stuff like this, and these little pop-ups are a great way for us to get used to the idea of how this sort of thing works. So I guess I'll go ahead and put the first item up. And not yet. Okay. I'm getting a little bit of extra feed here. So I don't know if any of you have any news or adventures that you've been on, any good buys. I understand that for our viewers in Canada, that things are starting to open up there a little bit more, and that there's more opportunity to get out and do some things. It's certainly the case in the States. I was back in Washington State doing an appraisal fair this last weekend, which was a lot of fun. There will be a video that I've done several small appraisal fairs lately, and we'll be putting together a video. Oh, it's did Jill C7. Thank you very much. I did really enjoy the trip to Washington. I did the appraisal fair. Some really neat things came in. I'll get to share those with you. And I also picked up some really great stuff on consignment and did a little buying, so there'll be some fresh merchandise. Oh, Azalea, you just got back from Portland. I was there, and it rained and was in the 60s, and they said that as of yesterday and the day before, it was going to be in the 90s and bone dry again. So I don't know which weather you got. The Northwest is quirky that way in the summertime. I was there on a very overcast and rainy weekend. Oh, found a grain sifter for $12 at an estate sale yesterday. Well, that is a great price for a grain sifter. I haven't had one of those for a while. I like all that farm stuff. Anything that people actually used in a farmhouse, to me, is a lot more interesting than white painted signs that say farmhouse that just came off a boat. So I am all for that. And I would be stoked too. That's a great price that you got it for. I also did Jill at C7 asked about Michigan, and actually my Michigan journey is going to be the end of this month. I will be doing the show in Allegan, Michigan. I just talked to the promoter today, and my friend Susan from the Detroit area is going to drive over and meet me, and we're going to have a big double space. So if you're in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, Allegan is a little town in the middle of nowhere, but it's between Holland and Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids and the lakefront. So apparently a lot of people go to this thing. Centralia is so close to where I grew up. Where did you grow up, Deb? My family came to Centralia in 1942, I believe, and my grandfather got a job in the local coal mine. My grandmother got a job at the hospital in Centralia. So if you were close to there, who knows? She might have even helped deliver you. I have no idea. The Centralia has turned into such a great antique town, and I had the pleasure of meeting several viewers who came. One came all the way from the other side of the state, which is a haul over the mountains. Got some good deals at the Reno Hot August Night Swap Meet. I have heard that that is a great place to shop, actually. I guess people really go for the cars, and the swap meet is a nice adjunct to that, and people who like old things, I guess, find some really good stuff there, because I understand that Reno has lost its big antique mall that I used to love to go to, and that's unfortunate, but it means that there's merchandise begging for someone to come to Reno and get it. So that sounds great, and I bet you found some good things. Oh, you did 2 antique malls in Cannon Beach. That's interesting. When I was involved with the Seaside Antique Mall, we were the only antique mall in that stretch of the beach. There were some individual shops, and we opened an antique mall there, and it did very well, and it since has moved across the street, but I understand is still there. Cannon Beach is just a beautiful place. If any of you are familiar with Haystack Rock, of course, that's a big tourist attraction. It's a giant haystack-looking boulder sitting out in the middle of the ocean about a mile offshore, and it's quite a local landmark. Seaside's just a great town. It is the place where Lewis and Clark ended their excursion when they got to the Pacific coast. Seaside is where they spent the winter of 1804 to 1805 and camped there and ate a lot of salmon and got really tired of it, apparently. My family was near the other Centralia, yes, the one that is on fire underground. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 Centralias in the United States, and 2 of them are ghost towns, one in Oklahoma, which I happened to drive through. I was in a very remote part of Oklahoma, and the other one is in Pennsylvania, and the one in Pennsylvania is also a coal mining town, and apparently the coal seam caught fire, I think 30 or 40 years ago, and is still burning, and they've pretty much emptied out the town. We learned about mini Empoli genie bottles this summer. Oh, how fun. Oh, that's great. Yes, there are little miniature Empoli glass bottles that are the genie bottle shape, and those are really cool, and don't really see those very often myself. So I've never done a live sale. Are there rules, protocol, or polite processes? Well, I've only done a few myself, and the way that we're doing this is, and we'll get started here in a minute, I will hold up an item and talk about it for just a bit, and then I have a wonderful assistant who will put the current price, which will be the starting bid, up on the screen. If anyone is interested, just put that number in the chat, and if one of you puts the number in and that's it, well, then you get it for that starting price, the number being the price number. We're not doing numbers on the items. If more than one puts in the price, then we're going to let you go back and forth, and whoever wants it the most, at that point you'll be bidding, and whoever puts in the high bid, when it seems like that's settled down, then you will hear a bell, and it will you will hear a ring of a bell, and that will be the announcement that the bidding is over, and the winner's name and the price will be announced. At that point, we'll ask you to please go ahead and send your information to me at theantiquenomad@gmail.com. You can see the information scrolling down at the bottom there, and you'll just need to send your name, your mailing address, and your PayPal address. And if you can get that to me by the end of tomorrow, then I will invoice on Sunday and have it out to you in the mail on Monday. I'm catching up with all that stuff. I know there's a couple of you watching who have items that I have had aside to ship to you, and I am finally ready to do that, and I'm sorry it's taken so long, but I will get those out to you too, so look for an invoice those items as well. And with that, okay, I guess we'll get started here. There's the current price, and let me hold up the first item. I did this actually in honor of Fatbird Finds, who I think just finished their live sale. And this one is the orange elephant with the trunk up. This is a 1930s piece, and it is actually, it's ceramic, but it's actually a porcelain. You can see it. It's not pottery, so it's a little better quality. It's made to be hollow inside, and he's just such a happy color. He's straight out of the 30s. He appears to be American. There's no mark on him saying that he's offshore production. So he does appear to be an American-made piece, and the current price on him is $15. So if this is of interest to you, then please go ahead and put in $15, and that will start off the bid on this particular piece. These have the trunk up for a very specific reason. These were made during the Depression era. And in the Depression, people were feeling like they had kind of run out of luck. And so the elephant with its trunk up for good luck became quite a popular symbol to collect. And so we see a lot of these made in that period of time. And what I like about this one is it's a little more detailed. Porcelain is a little more expensive than pottery. It fires at a higher temperature. It is a much harder wear when it's finished. And because of that, they do a little bit more detail. And so you can really see the detail in this, the folds of the skin, the folds in the trunk, the way the tusks are. And this guy appears to be an Indian elephant because he has small ears. Of course, the other kinds of elephants, the African elephants, have the large ears. So he's a cute guy, and if anyone is interested, speak now, and otherwise we will go to music between these items. So we'll have an interlude of music, and then we'll come back and show you something else. And I see we do have a bid of $15, and that's great. I think he's a really neat piece, and I think he's priced well for that. I like the fact when you see the tail, one thing to note is, notice how this does not double back. It was a lot harder for them to do molds that didn't reattach to the piece. So anytime you see separation, that means it was a little better quality. You see here the tail does touch the back of the piece, because that was easier for them in terms of stability. But the trunk, they did a very nice job. It does not touch the top of the figure. So I think that we have a new home for him. And I think we should go ahead and ring that bell. And thank you, Teofane. That will be going to you. I will, if you'll send me your stuff, I'll get an invoice out. I know I have some other things for you too, and we can incorporate that for combined shipping. So very good. And now let's have a little bit of a music break, and we'll be back with another item fairly soon. Well, I have to admit I'm enjoying this music too, and I like this format because it gives me a chance to chat with you and actually connect instead of just being here talking. So this is pretty cool. We might just have to do this again. So the next item that I'm going to put up for sale is this little piece here. This is Gouda, or Gouda as they say in Holland. And I know I've mentioned before, yes, it is the same place that makes the cheese, but they are very well known for having had a number of small pottery factories, particularly in the Art Nouveau period. This is the second generation of Gouda. This is going to date to about the 1930s. Again, I noticed Teofane saying, oh yes, oranges and greens. Well, you notice there's orange, green, yellow. This looks like colors a lot of us associate with the 1970s, but it is in fact from the 1930s. And it's got a nice mark on the bottom. In fact, it's got two marks. Let me turn it over. The one is a factory stamp, and then the other one says hand painted. The 3609 is a stock number, and then the letters are decorators' initials. And that was so that they could tell if they were having trouble with the production who the decorator was, so they could go back and fix the colors in the glaze or whatever wasn't working right. And Malta is the pattern. So it's a cute little piece. And the current price on this is $18. If this interests anyone out there, put in $18 and into the chat, and then we will know that this is for you, unless two of you want it, in which case then you have to fight it out amongst yourselves. But I like this one because it seems to be, the way that they painted this is they did the decoration with some sort of outlining, and then they colored in between into all the flowers. So let me see if I can hold that a little closer so that you can see the way that that was done. So it's a combination of a pattern and then freehand painting within the pattern. The decorators were quite good, and the decorators were largely women. You notice the inside is more of an ochre color. That's sort of a holdover. Most of the earlier Gouda pieces are either green or ochre inside, because that was what they did in the early arts and crafts era. And the reason they would glaze the inside, of course, was so that if you were using this as a vase, it would not leak water. And this is what they would call a favor vase, meaning a little vase that you would put at the place settings of a table. Now, I see people use these for other things nowadays, cocktail forks, toothpicks, that sort of thing. But originally, that was the intent of it. So this little piece is pretty close to the last piece of this that I have. I was selling off a very big collection, and I've sold it off over the period of the past year. I think I have this and maybe one other item left. So there are, oh, I see, there's a stunning Gouda console set in a local antique store. A console set would be very nice. I guess I would say it depends on the price. What is too much. There was a time that it sold for very high prices, and if it went back into the, if the dealer has it priced at old school prices, well, then yes, that might be a little bit on the high side. There was a time when a little piece like this would sell for $40 or $45, and nowadays they typically sell for about 25 to 30. So the prices have come down on it from the very, very high levels they were once at. And the reason for that is this was distributed all around the world when it was new. So it is really beautiful stuff, well done, but it was so very popular that it's not ultra rare. It's just unique in that each piece is hand painted, so they all have their own individual feel. And I see that a couple folks are interested in this, and that's great. I'm glad to send it off to a new home. It is a very pretty piece. I think I am going to keep one piece out of the collection as a reminder to myself because it's fun. I have a very strange little quirk about that. I like to keep one piece from every estate sale I do. At the end, I look and find whatever the most interesting thing that is left or something small that I can use, and it's a nice way to remember the different things that I've done throughout my career and where I was and the time and place. And the condition of this is perfect. There are no chips, cracks, or damage. We always use the palms of our hands to check for that because your fingers get calluses, but you will catch every flea bite. Believe it or not, the palm of your hand doesn't get used in that way so much, so you will catch minute little problems with things that you would not catch if you just do this. So always use the palm of your hand. It's a tip I like to share with everybody. And it looks to me like we may have the ultimate purchaser for this piece. So Bobby Jansky, thank you very much. That will be yours. And if you'll send me your information as shown below, then we'll get this out to you. And now back to the music, because I'm having fun with it. And I'm glad you are too. Might take a sec though. Well, I swear I didn't set that up, but that worked out really well because I noticed in the chat you're all talking about the fire and opal glass, and the next piece that I'm have to sell tonight is actually a piece of Moonstone. Now, I don't know that you'll be able to see it from your side. It probably just looks like milk glass, but if I'm from my end looking through from the back into the light, you really can see the opal fire. It looks like an opal ring. And so I don't know that there's any way I can show you this from the side you're seeing it from because the light's shining on it. You have to be looking back at a light source behind it. But if you do that, it will look opal like an opal ring. And this does because while this is not milk glass per se, this is called opalescent glass. They use a chemical in that they add to the clear glass where on the edges it turns it white when they make it. And this particular piece was made in the 1940s by Anchor Hocking. They were really starting to experiment with color. They had come up in the late 30s with the way to make royal ruby red glass without having to use the types of chemicals, particularly gold, that were required to make deep reds before. And so I see there is a current price of $10 on it, and Bobby has expressed interest in it at that price, which is great. I just think it's a really neat looking little relish piece. Moonstone is not a terribly expensive pattern to collect, and you can get an entire service. They actually did do dinner plates and all that sort of stuff, but mostly what we see are serving pieces like this tripart relish. So you would have different jams or sauces or that sort of thing in here. And I just think they're very pretty. Anchor Hocking, of course, I know, Nat, you said that you are collecting the milk glass, and you'll notice that these hobnails are very round compared to Fenton, which are very sharp. So that's a way that you can tell that this is an Anchor Hocking piece. And they're very nice. I've always liked these. This is something that I got interested in when I was first an antique dealer. Depression glass was one of my big mainstays, and this is definitely part of the Depression glass era. And no, not all of the big companies did make Moonstone. Moonstone, or a lot of different companies did do opalescent edges. It was very popular in the 40s and 50s especially, although it was done in the Victorian era as well. But not every company did it because a lot of companies preferred to actually do solid colors in depression glass rather than things where they had to add chemicals where it would change color along edges and things. You'll also see some glass where they trimmed it in white, and that's not really the same thing because, again, the opalescence is something that happens as a chemical process out on the edges of the glass. So it's a neat piece, and I think that it's going to live with Bobby if I would put Chick-fil-A sauce in every section. Well, I would put different kinds of salsa because I'm a big Mexican food guy, so that would be how I would use it. Either that or you could use jewelry here and tie bars here and cufflinks here, who knows. But I think that one is going to Bobby, and we'll ring that bell, and that makes it yours. And when we're all done here, we'll get all your information and go from there. So thank you very much, and we'll have a little musical interlude here now while I get ready and take a look to see what to put up next. Well, we're back, and it's really fun seeing more people getting into the chat. It's so nice to have all of you here. I figured this is going to make up for the fact that I will be on vacation on Monday and probably won't get to do that. You had tons of ash and battleground. It was really a spooky and interesting thing. My family in Connecticut called and were horrified that we had not evacuated, even though we were 100 and some miles away. And we said, well, we're over 100 miles away. And they said, that's in the same state? They have no concept back east of how large the western states really are. And the funny thing is, the way the Earth was spinning, she got more ash in Connecticut than we did in Bremerton. So we lucked out on that one. Let's see. So the next item I wanted to show, I thought it'd be fun to show this because it is just a sweet little, let me get it where we can focus. There we go. It's a sweet little transferware cup with a very fancy handle. And when you look at it, you say, oh yes, absolutely Victorian, right around 1905, 1910. And you look at it and it's got the small rose on the back, very typical of the work of that time, until you turn up the bottom and see that it says Lefton China. So it's made in Japan, actually. And this is from the late 1950s. This is Lefton China, one of their earlier marks, the crown in the transferware. It's not a sticker or anything like that. The reason that I wanted to show this piece was because a lot of early Lefton China pieces really were trying to recreate what was popular in America and Europe in the 1900 era. And the reason for that is because this is right when people are starting to really get nostalgia and collect things, and they notice that there was a lot of interest among people who at that point were in their 40s and 50s, and they remembered these things from their grandparents' houses. And so they wanted something that had that look. And so we have it up at a current price of $5. It's not a lot of money, but it's just a sweet little thing and a good story. And I really wanted to show it as much for the story as anything else. The condition is absolutely perfect. It does have all of its original gilding, and it does have this nice serrated top so that you can dribble coffee all over yourself when you actually use it, which is probably not a selling point, but I find it very amusing because I have a hard time with these. I don't drink coffee though, so for me it's more something I would use in a display as something akin to a shaving mug. But you can tell they really did make an effort to put the design into the body of the piece as well. So you get this little bit of swirling effect. So it is a very faithful recreation, and of course now this is as old as the pieces that it was aping back then. So time marches on, and there are a lot of collectors for Lefton's rose pattern, and that's another good thing about it. You will see other pieces in this pattern, little pitcher and washstand bowls in miniature, and I just think it's very sweet. So I'm glad that someone else does too. And I see your Ohio State logo. I guess football season is coming soon. That's what I know Ohio State for the most. I know some people who graduated there, and actually I guess they had quite a basketball team too, so I shouldn't just call them a football school because apparently they're really good in a lot of sports. And so I think that this is going to you for $5, and we will ring that bell and get back to other music, but the bell is a nice sound because that means that these things are getting a new home, and I appreciate that. And thank you all for watching and chatting, and I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, well, this next piece that I wanted to show you all is a little bit of a curiosity. It is very similar to Reuben glass, or north of the border, a company out of Toronto that viewer helped me find one with a label, and we were able to determine is called Art Deco glass. And this, however, is ceramic, it's porcelain, but it has this same sort of effect. It is an ornament on a stand, and it is signed JJ85. Now, I cannot find any scholarship on who JJ was other than a porcelain maker, but you can see the mark underneath. It's hand painted, and the idea, these colors were very, very much in style in the 1980s. I'm trying to get it to where you can see. There's the signature, and 85 for the year. These patterns and styles with these concentric rings where it almost looks like water drops or oil drops were very popular, and Reuben glass was done with these same colors, but this one is actually a porcelain ornament done in this manner, and it comes with its original stand. In the 1980s, it became very popular to start collecting studio pottery and porcelains, and people really began to like ornaments because it was something that was fun to give as a gift. It was something that wasn't terribly expensive at the time, and they just had a neat look to them. And I thought this one was interesting. It is an area of collecting that I'm just starting to see people get interested in with the glassware. And so I'm curious to see if this will find a home. But I do think that it is an interesting and up-and-coming area of collecting. And yeah, the Art Deco company, Art Deco Glass was the name of the company out of Toronto. And I'd seen pieces north of the border and finally had a Canadian viewer who found a piece that was actually marked accordingly. And so we were able to identify that it was indeed made in Toronto. And yes, Nate, I think this is a very attractive piece. Now, it might be a little specific for some decor because it is lavenders and pinks and purples. And tonight might be the night for it, or it may be something that will be an up-and-comer over the next few years. But people have been asking me what I think is coming next, and I definitely think 1980s style. And I get a lot of questions now that I'm doing appraisals on the internet. I am actually getting a lot of people asking about studio pieces from this era, because there is a lot of stuff that was made in this time, and some of those studio makers, glass or ceramic, are a big deal collectible now, and some of them are still relatively obscure, like this one. So it seems like it's going to remain obscure, but I'm glad I got to at least show you all. Yes, we'll play the Sad Price is Right music, but a fun piece, and I don't mind looking at it for a while. So at least I got to show you something different, and now let's go back to the music. So I came back because our chat got stuck on this end. I don't know if you can hear me yet.
Hey everyone, this is Zeno. Sorry, that was my fault. The chat got stuck in the program that I'm using. So let me scroll back here, and it looks like Bobby Jansky is the current high bid at $10.
Yes, and in fairness to the other folks who were bidding, we'll give it just a little moment longer in case someone else was interested as well. But I'm glad that there is interest in this, because I kind of thought that there should be. It's an awfully pretty piece. So Bobby is currently the high bidder at $10. If anyone else is interested, speak now or forever hold your peace, but hopefully we won't have any more glitches in the chat. We appreciate you being patient with us. We are fairly new to this live stuff, and we're looking to do a lot of different live content on this channel. Things where we spontaneously are able to go live from an interesting estate sale or a show or that sort of thing, because there's a lot of times, for example, I do a lot of antique shows, and we are so busy sometimes that I never get to film, and so you actually don't get to see everything that I get to see, and I'd really like to share that with you. So that's the purpose of the live channel, as well as doing things like this. But it does look like indeed this is going to be Bobby, so we will rescind the Price is Right music, and instead we'll ring a nice bell. There we go. Well, thank you, Bobby. And thank you all for bidding and participating and chatting and having fun with us. Now let's get back to some music. Well, hey everybody. I see a bunch of new folks in the chat and welcome. We are having fun with the Friday Night Music Lounge. We haven't done this for a while. We thought we'd try it on the new live channel. We also thought that we would do a little pop-up sale in the middle of it because the last time we did the Music Lounge and took breaks and sold stuff, people seemed to really like that. So we thought, why not? I thought it'd be fun before I finish my big appraisal job this weekend and then take off next week for vacation to get to chat with you all one more time and show and tell about some cool stuff. So we're going to have music and then little breaks, and this is how it'll work. You'll see the current price for the item on the screen, and if you want it, you may go ahead and bid that price. If you decide you want it more than someone else, bid more, and whoever is the high bidder at the end of the series, you will hear a bell. There we go. Yes, it will sound like that, and that will mean the end of the bid, and we will announce who the high bidder is. I wanted to show this piece next. And all the information on how to send in your information for invoicing and everything is at the bottom in the crawl there. This is a camphor chest, and camphor is a very specific type of wood grown in Asia. These are primarily made in China or places related to China. I'll show you that in just a minute. Camphor chests are something I am used to seeing a lot on the West Coast because a lot came over with people who were GI stationed over there during the Japanese occupation and in Korea and in Vietnam. We do not see them as much in other parts of the country, however. And so I picked this one up recently and thought it was a nice little piece. Actually, I shouldn't say I picked it up. I got it from a consignor, a viewer who I'm helping sell some things for. They always are carved with these, it's usually village scenes, people working. They can be quite large and quite elaborate. They can be bigger than a cedar chest, or they can be jewelry chest sized, as is this one. And this one has a little secret, something for you all to look for, particularly if you're resellers. You can tell, first of all, that this was actually cut with by hand rather than machine because of the unevenness there. But something interesting about this particular one is, notice on the inside it says made in British Hong Kong. A lot of these came through Hong Kong in the early post-war era. And the reason it says British Hong Kong is this is during a time when the Chinese are putting a lot of pressure on England to release Hong Kong back to them, which they eventually did in the 1990s. So there are people who are starting to collect things that say British Hong Kong or British India. The Brits were very big on making sure that they kept claim to their colonies even as they were trying to dispossess themselves of their colonies, which is something that started after the American Revolutionary War. They began to realize that trying to manage colonies from a long way was pretty difficult. It's got a nice brass hinge. The current price is $15. I see that we do have someone interested in this piece. They're not too heavy to ship when they're this size, but camphor wood is very heavy wood. It's much like cedar, and the reason it's used for chests is because it is bug repellent. It keeps the critters out of your stuff. And so people sometimes who collect things like handkerchiefs, for example, if you live in an area where you have problems with moths or other critters that like to eat silk or linen, will use a camphor chest. So it's a nice piece. It's got all its feet. The lid works well. Its hinge is correct. Those are all things you need to look for if you're buying these for resale. And this one's got nice detail on it. I like the scene on the back, which, they typically are village scenes. So you see you've got buildings and a bridge. The sun never sets on the British Empire. That is still the truth. And in fact, the British Columbia flag shows the bars of the flag with the setting sun, because that was about as far away from London as you could be at the time, but you were still in the British Empire. So we have a current offer of $25 on this, and I think that we will go ahead and wrap up on this here. I believe Gina Marie is our winner of this particular piece. Thank you very much, Gina. Please do send your information as it shows below in the ticker, and let's get back to some music and more chat. Oh, hello, everybody. Well, I'm so absorbed in the chat that I was not paying attention, so I guess I have to do something now. The next items that I have, it's going to be the winner's choice, because I have two different ones, and you can have either or both. But these are little eggs done by, yes, Franklin Mint. And I thought these would be fun to show because these do have a little bit of age now. They are collectible. The one on the left is a cloisonné style, and the one actually, okay, on my left, your right, is cloisonné, and the one that I'm spinning with the basket is porcelain. Now, Franklin Mint is something that they actually make some really good stuff, and some of it does sell really high online. But the reason I wanted to show these is also because for those of you who are John Waters fans, I recently saw Serial Mom again, and I had forgotten that the Franklin Mint eggs are actually an important part of the plot in that movie, because if you've seen it, when she murders her daughter's ex-boyfriend who has cheated on her, well, she's at a swap meet in a gymnasium, and her friend goes off to buy Franklin Mint eggs. And while her friend is gone, she takes care of business with the ex-boyfriend, and the friend comes back and realizes something is amiss, and also wonders what happened to her Franklin Mint eggs. So I just got a kick out of that. So when I saw these, I had to pick them up. I think they're kind of pretty. They come with a little stand. They're actually really well made. I mean, the enameling and the gilding and everything is very precise and very well done. So they are rather springy with the little bluebirds on the bottom. People seem to be wild about bluebirds again. I am looking for bluebird china from the 19-teens, by the way, if anyone sees any out there. I haven't had any of that in quite a while. So there are two of these, and if someone is interested in either or both of them, they are $8, and we'll just let this run for just a bit longer. I suppose my...
Show each one, please.
Yes, let's show each one. That's a good idea. Okay, so here is the one that is cloisonné. So this is actually metal with enameling in it, and you can see, because this has the gold background, it's a good way to see how cloisonné is done. You can actually see the wires, the brass wires that are elevated, and then the enameling goes in between. Now, typically these are done with a solid background, but this one they left the gold metal. But that's how cloisonné is done, has been done for as long as it's around, which has been, gosh, a few centuries at least that I know of. And then the other one is a porcelain, and it is a combination of transferware and gold paint. However, this does not look like it's anybody's taste this evening, so, unless I'm missing something in the chat, which I don't think so. So we will go back to music and come back with something else. Now we get the Price is Right music correct. Okay, folks, sorry about that. So we had a last-minute bid. I have to learn to not be so quick on these things. I'm such a frequent shopper for things that I'm just like, oh yeah, I'll take it, I'll take it, I'll take it. And so I don't always give enough time. I see that Kitschy Corner would like one of these for $8. If you'll just let me know which one when you send your information in the invoice, or if you want to put it in the chat now, I will be happy to set it aside for you and we'll get that out for you. So let me know if it's the cloisonné or if it's the yellow with the porcelain, and whichever one it is, we will get that out to you right away. How'd we do? Oh gosh. Okay, well, I'm still learning this live stuff, folks. You'll have to forgive me. All right, I'm just going to hold him here and wait to be told what to do. Okay, so I guess we're at $9, and I'm not sure who the bid is. But again, same rule applies. If you want both of them, you can have them for $9 each. If you want just one, you get to choose which. And they are the same design on the front and the back, so I'm going to stop turning them around so you can actually see them a little better. Kind of lower it out of the glare there. This is definitely good exercise holding this out for the camera like this, I've got to say. My forearms are going to be amazing. These are really pretty things. They were made about, well gosh, that movie came out in 1994 and they were current then. So they're about, gosh, 25 years old. I actually saw the premiere of Serial Mom in the theater in Santa Monica and got to meet John Waters and Pia Zadora, who came up to about my waist. She's tiny, tiny, tiny. Who else was there? I think Kathleen Turner wasn't there, but interestingly enough, Quentin Tarantino was the fellow who did the interview. And so John Waters came up and they interviewed him about the movie and about his career, and then we all got to watch the movie. It was the world premiere, and it was a lot of fun. I have to say, I've met John Waters twice, and he is disturbingly normal in person. In fact, so hyper normal that it actually makes you wonder about everyone else that you've ever met. Okay, well, gosh, these are more popular than I thought. I just have to be patient and let folks have a chance to see what they like, I guess. Let me see if there's anything else. I'm going to set one down. They do have their little stands with them. And the way the bottoms are finished is interesting to me too, because they have the FM for Franklin Mint on the bottom. At least this one does. I don't know if I see it on the cloisonné version. The cloisonné version actually has a hole in it, probably as part of the casting. A lot of heat is done when you're making these sorts of things. There's a lot of heat in these industrial processes that you use to make this sort of thing. Any of you who've done any ceramics on your own probably are aware of that as well. And because of that, you will see vent holes in things, whether it's Staffordshire dogs or Franklin Mint eggs. So when you see a little hole in something, it's generally because that's what they had to do in order to make it. And this one, again, is metal. Oops, let's get it where you can see. So this one is metal, and this one is porcelain. And the bid is for whichever one you wish. I figured I'd give people their choice. We'll have one other item where I've got a choice of two as well.
Okay, Trina is out, and Sherry or Cherry, I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. I have a friend named spells her name like that in Sherry. Trina, I'm assuming second choice for at 14, or how are you gonna do that?
If the
Trina
if the high bidder doesn't want both, then if the second bidder wants the other one, they may have it.
Oh, you're gonna do both. Okay, I didn't catch that.
No, they're individually priced. But the high bidder has the option of taking both if they wish. And I think we're at about that time. Okay, so we're going to end the bid. And Sherry, if you can tell us which one you're interested in, then we will see if we have one available for someone else or if you're going to have them both. If you don't mind to let us know in the chat. I know it's a little unusual to do two items at once, but I thought it would be fun to try it. We are experimenting a little bit here and doing some things a little differently than we've done before. So.
Still waiting on.
Okay, well, let me do a little note here, and we'll have some music for everybody in just a moment. The cloisonné. Okay, very good. So that one is for you. And Trina, if you are interested in the porcelain one, it is available. And you can let us know in the chat since you were the next bidder. Yeah, we can watch that in the chat while we go, and let's get back to some music. Sounds like I'm on vacation already, although I have to say the music will be a little different where I'm going. But anyway, I have another item to show you folks. It's funny to me to be seeing this stuff as vintage, but here it is. This is Homco, believe it or not. This is part of their Masterpieces line. And this is the first year after NAFTA passed, so when we look at the bottom, we see that it is made in Mexico, because that all just was starting to happen in 1996 when this was made. But it is very good quality. I have to say, much better quality than the treasure craft that was being made in Mexico in that year. This is much better painted and much more skilled. And this, of course, is a scene with the Circle of Friends. The Circle of Friends are these bonneted little children figures. And in this case, this is depicting the resurrection. These tended to have a religious feel to them, primarily, this particular line, and they are very sweet. And I had the good fortune to do an estate sale in Kentucky where a woman had a very large collection, so that's how I was introduced to them. And then I found this one out in the wild for a very inexpensive price and thought, well, gosh, I see that people collect these, and now I understand that this is a thing. I have to say, I was one of the first dealers I knew to buy and sell a piece of Homco. Back in the early 90s, I got one of those big plastic frog and mushroom wall plaques, and I brought it into a mall where I sold a lot of 1970s items, and a couple came in and looked at it and just were horrified and said how horrible it was and why are you selling that kind of junk? And another couple came in right behind them and bought it. And I thought, well, I think this stuff is cool. It's kitschy, it's fun, and it's going to be a thing. And it sure is. And they did a lot of different things over the years, and a lot of it is collectible now. So this sweet little Circle of Friends piece is $8, and I see that Karen Radford is our bidder for this piece. And that is great. It has a Bible verse from Corinthians on the bottom. And it discusses the resurrection, of course, and you see that the one little child is actually an angel up on top there with the wings. So it's a sweet piece, and it looks to me, if there's any other interest, please let us know, but it looks to me like it will probably be going with Karen Radford. And if that's the case, then I guess we can, we'll give it one more second and then ring that bell. All right, very good. Well, thank you very much, Karen. And if you'll send your information, I know a lot of you folks, I probably have your information on file, but with me, because I do sales like this sort of intermittently and not on a regular schedule, please don't assume that I know. I will need you to please send me the information at the Antique Nomad at gmail.com, and then we'll get that all ready for you. Now back to the creepy music. Well, I noticed in the chat that somebody asked, is it vintage vampires or night owls? And I'm voting for night owls because I've got one right here. And this particular one is a big wedge of crystal. And when I say wedge, it's, well, Wedgwood, believe it or not. Wedgwood, of course, is known for jasperware and lovely ceramics and being a pioneer in the ceramic and porcelain industry. They also rightfully should be known as one of the English companies that really managed to survive. And part of the way they did it is at a certain point, they bought Waterford in 1987 and had Waterford make things, and some of them were marked Wedgwood crystal. So this actually is the quality of a Waterford piece. It's got the Wedgwood crystal etched mark there. And also, it's hard to read the original sticker because over the past 34 years, it has lost a little bit of its lettering. But it basically says, made in England by Wedgwood crystal. So you know that it actually is English made, which is nice. The reason Wedgwood did this was partly because they wanted crystal to go along with their dinnerware, and they were also trying to preserve the English home goods and tableware industries. Also, they did this because there was a lot of competition for this sort of thing from the Swedish firms. A lot of the Swedish firms made this sort of ware. And so you can see here, it may be a little hard to see from where you are, but this is the back. This is where it's etched in. Now I've got the glare on it, so I think you can see. So they're deep etched on one side, and then the other side is just solid slab. So it gives it a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. And I like this because he's sitting on a branch and it's textured on the side, so it looks like he's in a tree. Just a cool looking piece, I thought. And this came from a collection in Florida. I bought several of these, but this was the only owl. And of course, owls are wise and they are harbingers of good fortune, I think. I had a close encounter with an owl in an antique mall when I ran the antique mall in Lafayette, Oregon. We had a belfry on the top. It was built in 1910. It was a great old schoolhouse that was turned into an antique mall. It's still there, actually. And when I went up one day to shut the vent off in the belfry, because that was actually part of how we got the heat out of the building, I had something whap me in the back of my head really hard, and I turned and looked, and it was a giant owl spreading its wings and flying out. It turned out we had a family of owls living in the building, and you are not allowed to displace them or disturb them. So we just left that vent open all the time after that, and they could come and go as they pleased. I wouldn't be surprised if there still aren't descendants of those owls living in the building. And yes, it is illegal to stuff an owl. Owls are pretty protected these days. There are some endangered versions, and also, well, people love owls, and it's easy to get people to rally around animals that are, or birds, or things that are cute. And so, oh, I have a stuffed alligator. Gonna need to find a place to sell that. I'll tell you, stuffed alligators sell in Florida like crazy. And yes, you can sell a stuffed alligator. I've done it several times, and they are very popular down there. I wonder if you have a little stuffed alligator or a big one. There's little ones called caimans that are a little lighter color than an alligator, and they, well, I guess they're little when they are little. People don't typically stuff large alligators just because what are you going to do with one? But I'm sure that there's a few in old taxidermy collections somewhere. In any event, yes, owls are not to be stuffed, only with field mice and things like that. Yes, an owl can do some damage to you. That is true. They have big talons. I mean, the one that flew past me with his wingspan was as wide as I am tall, so like over 6 feet. It was pretty awe-inspiring, and watching it fly past after I got over the shock of it was a really beautiful and fun experience. I certainly never expected to get so close to one. So it looks like we're at a current price of $15. If anyone else is interested in this, please let us know, because otherwise we're going to, oh, I guess it's still ticking up, so we're going to give everybody a chance on this. I like the fact also that when they did the carving, they did a satin effect here, but then they polished out the eyes. Satin glass is done using, well, these days using generally some sort of an acid bath to get that, but it also can be done using tools. when you're doing your carving. And there's great detail in this because, again, this is essentially from the House of Waterford, so you just see really good quality. And then they polish the eyes so that the eyes have great contrast. Just a very clever piece. It's nice and heavy. You could certainly use, I suppose, as a paperweight or a bookend. Owls are definitely more collectible than gators. Well, yes, depending where you go. In Florida, I would want to have the gator. In the rest of the country, I'd probably want to have the owl. Although I suppose Louisiana, gators are pretty big there too. Is this one that can sit on a lighted stand? Well, it certainly could. This was not originally made to do that, but they are certainly able to be done that way. And a lot of people do put lighted stands under these, some even that change colors, because then you'd get the different colors through. And the satin would reflect differently than everything else. So that's kind of a neat way to present them. In any event, we are at $16 here, and we're getting close to wrapping up. So if anyone else is interested, please let us know now, because otherwise we're about ready to ring that bell and move on to some more music and then some more cool stuff as the evening progresses. Evening, depending where you are. It's nice to do this. We wanted to start a little earlier than we've done these in the past because we wanted our East Coast viewers to get a chance, and then it's nice because the West Coast viewers, it's actually a reasonable hour for you. So stay with us. We'll be here for a bit. And that is the ring of the bell, and I believe that means that this is going to Lisa Ray. Thank you very much, and thank you all for watching and participating and having fun together in the chat, and I'm going to join you here in just a second. Well, welcome back. I'm glad you're having fun with this. I sure am too. And so let's introduce another item. I think this is rather pretty. This is by a woman named Edith Foster, who was a very, well, she really was a professional ceramicist. This is a porcelain box. She did a lot of porcelain painting. She was from Tampa, Florida. She's passed on now, but she won a bunch of awards at the Florida State Fair for various portraiture that she did. And she became so enamored of the art that she did it really up into her 80s. And it's got her signature on the back, and she did display at several galleries and sold a number of pieces. So she's really only known regionally, but she is a professional, or was a professional porcelain maker. And what I think is appealing about this box, besides the scene, which is basically derived from a 16th or 17th century European painting, is that it is a card box. And I like that it even has the luster finish in there. And this fell out of it because that was there. But it will hold 2 decks of playing cards. So if you're, well, if you get it in there right, it will. There we go. So if you're a canasta player or something else where you play with double decks of cards, or you just like to have a few around, it's useful for that. A lot of people, boy, that card really does not want to come out of there. Okay. People also use these for various things. In the old days, this would have probably been for 2 different types of cigarettes, but not so many people needing it for that anymore. It is luster painted on the inside of the box, and the current price on it is $10. It is in perfect condition, as long as I am careful with the way I hold it. And I like this because this is enamel beading. This is very similar to what they call moriage in Japan, where they put enamel and glass together and then fire it so that it actually has dimension. So these feel like little dots, almost like braille, when you put your hand across the surface. But all of this is completely free painted. She did all of this work freehand. She didn't trace, copy, project, or anything. She was actually very skillful. And I see Uncle Andy likes it, and I love the bird, Uncle Andy.
What does it say in the corner?
It is her signature in the corner as well. She signed it on both the front and the back. And when I first got this had been one of her gallery pieces, and it had a price tag of $45, and they said, oh yeah, she didn't sell that one, but she sold several others that were just like it. So at one time in the marketplace, she had a pretty good following in the area where she was selling. She sold at several art galleries in the Tampa Bay area in Florida, and also displayed in the state competitions there. So it's a very pretty porcelain box. It's actually fairly weighty, but we are shipping from Kentucky, and the image is a city and a waterway. I don't know what city. It's not Venice, because it doesn't have lots of little islands, and it definitely appears coastal, possibly Portugal or Spain. It's really a little indefinite. The flags are not done with a country or any sort of a identifier on them here. But it definitely, the buildings definitely have an Italian or Spanish feel to me. And of course, the Tampa Bay area is very much steeped in traditions of old Spain and the pirates and that sort of thing. So this would have been appropriate for that area, and that's what makes me pretty confident that it is this sort of a scene. It's certainly not English or that sort of thing. And so it looks to me like this is likely to go to Uncle Andy. And I'm very glad for that, because I thought it was a very pretty piece, and I think you got a wonderful deal. Please send your information to me, and we'll get this out to you. And now back to Hawaii we go. Well, thank you all you night owls sticking with us, and I have something very pretty that I think that a lot of you may enjoy. I haven't sold a compact in a while, and I found this one. I thought it was very sweet because it's got, I assume that's abalone used to do the bluebird, because it definitely has that nice blue color that changes in the light depending how it hits it. Mother of pearl on the outside. This is going to be from about 1960, when compacts really were, it was their sort of last go round of being really artful. This was just shortly before makeup started to be sold in throwaway disposable cases. So this was something that you could go out and take out of your purse and have everyone ooh and ah over. This particular one with the bird has nice painting on it, and if you open up the inside, it is by a company called Michel, and it says on the tag, whoops, if I get it in front of my face, you'll be able to see. There we go. It says genuine mother of pearl, and the mirror is in good shape. You will notice there is one scratch on the bottom where the powder puff lid is, and we can open that up, and it does spring right open. It does not have the powder puff, so that is something that if you were going to use, you would actually have to get this. But a lot of people are using these for things like pill boxes these days, and so they're not necessarily using them for powder. Now, when you shut a compact, it's really better for it if you're very gentle with the clips, and particularly if it's one where you can push it rather than snapping it. That's a good thing to do. It just helps them last longer. They're really well made, and I don't think you would have any problems with one in the near term, but if it is something you plan to use a lot, that's always a good thing to do. Or if you're looking at a really old one in an antique store, it's good to be gentle with them that way. It's in good shape overall. A few little marks on the back, kind of normal for having sat on someone's boudoir, but I don't think that this was ever used. And yes, it does have a box in the middle that would have been a place that you could have something engraved like someone's initials. So this is at a current price of $15. And if any of you are glamorous folks or just like glamorous things to look at on your dresser, then this might be for you. Michel is not one of the bigger makers of compacts. They were not around for a very long time. Stratton in England is one that we see quite a lot from this period. And there were a lot of commercial ones as well as ones that were made in commercial, meaning that it was made by a company that was selling the product in it. So Volupte, for example, or Coty would have compacts that had their marks on it. And then there were companies that made them like this just for people to buy and use on their own. So very pretty piece. The light's a little strong. It probably is more attractive in person than it is on the screen because you see the color whites out a little bit with all this light, but if I tip it down, you might get the idea a little better. There we go. That's a little more true. One that size would be in, yes, exactly. Yeah, marks are to be expected because they would have been in and out of a purse quite a lot, and I'm glad to see that someone is interested in this. If anyone else is, let us know. Otherwise, in the interest of time, we will continue on. So I guess we'll ring that bell. And thank you very much, and we will put this aside for you. I know some of you folks have multiple items, so when we're all done, just send us your information, and we will combine shipping, of course, as long as it's safe to do so, and I think all of the items tonight are definitely safe that way. And now back to the music. Okay, well, sorry on that last one that we created some confusion. We don't really have a countdown, so when the bell rings, it's high bidder at that point. So I apologize if that created any issues, but it seemed like you folks worked it out. So thank you very much for being so kind to each other. I will say, okay, we're going to wind down now, so we'll ring the bell, and that's basically means that it's right at the end. So do get your bids in, and how it comes up in our chat is how we'll see it. So the next piece here is going to be familiar to a lot of you folks because this is a Hummel figurine, and a lot of you, of course, have seen these over time. This one is nice because it's a double figure, and it is also nice because Hummel just did really good work. It's all hand painted. This has its original label that says "Telling Her Secret," so there's a little bit of gossip going on, and this has the paper label telling you that. And they're also really nice because they're done in 3 dimensions, so you really get the full effect all the way around. This one is the stylized B mark, and you can see that there. These different little marks tell you when these pieces were made. The stylized B, which is that little figure inside that V mark there, is from 1959 to 1972, and this was when Hummel started to become really, really popular to collect in the United States. They were really only known in Germany before the Second World War, and Sister Hummel was a nun, and she loved depicting cherubic children. She had a real artistic flair. She came up with these, and Hitler did not approve of them because they were done by a nun, and Hitler, of course, did not approve of the church. So they really went underground during the Second World War. The war ended, and she passed on in 1946, so only a few of her original designs were made, but they became very popular with GIs to send during the occupation of Germany to people back in the United States, and all of a sudden people in the US started really collecting them, and the Goebel company that made them became a really, really successful company because of Hummel figurines. They had made stuff before, but this really got them going. And by the way, hi Katie, I saw you come up on the screen. Nice to have you with us. So this Hummel secret teller, telling her secret, it does have the initials of Hummel on the back that you can see impressed in the mold, and it is priced at $15. So if there is anyone out there who likes these, well, Paloma and Brothers Jose, very good. Nice to meet you too. I'm glad to have you with us, and welcome to the chat. Welcome to the live channel. The live channel is fairly new, by the way, for you folks who are not familiar with the main channel, the Antique Nomad. That's where I do a lot of more educational type things, pre-recorded videos, and a lot of show and tell. And in this, guys, we're doing a lot of different things on the live channel that we haven't really tried before, or haven't done a lot, like the Friday Night Music Lounge with the pop-up sale. And we're having a lot of fun with it. And Trina, I do see your bid. I want you to know I'm with you this time on this one. Anyway, it's a very sweet little pair of Hummel figures, or a single figure with 2 people on it, I should say. And if you are interested, the current price is $15. Did the sister know how famous her art became before her passing? Not really, because she died in 1946, and that was the first year of the post-war rebuilding and occupation. So the Goebel factory, which like most German factories was pretty much blown to smithereens, had to be rebuilt. So she never really got to find out how popular her figures were, but she did get to see their revival after the Second World War. So she at least got to know that her art was being respected and being produced. But it wasn't really until the early 1950s that the Hummel production really took off. And they did hundreds of different figures over the years, and they used to sell for astronomical prices, some of them, and a few of them still do. I think the most popular are the Umbrella Boy and Girl, and those in the larger size, they're bookends, and they still sell for somewhere in the $500 range if you have the right pair. And the marks really do make a difference. In later years, they get rid of the B mark, the little insect in the V there, and as a result, they say Goebel after that. And the ones that say Goebel were really heavily produced. So the earlier ones, if you have the choice as a collector, especially because there's not that much price distinction, definitely go for the older ones if you can find them. They're also a little more subtle and just a little more soft in their the way that they're painted and glazed, in my opinion. So it looks like this will be going to Trina for 15. We will ring the bell shortly. If anyone else is interested, please let us know now. Otherwise, we're going to ring that bell and we'll go back for more music. And I'm learning too, so we're giving it just a second longer than we did the last time. Okay, very good. Well, that one is for Trina, and thank you very much. And let's get back to the music. Well, this next group of items is being sold all together for one price, and that price is going to start at $5. There are 4 items, and it's one price for all. It's not each. These are all together as one price takes all. And what they are, hopefully I can get them to where you can see them. Oh yes, I can put one on my finger. That's nice. These are little lead animals. I hope I can make these focus because, yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's do it this way, actually, because I think you'll be able to. There you go. So there is a bear. These are all little lead animals, and they're 1940s and 50s era because you will see on some of them, here is a pig. Well, let's try this a different way. Sorry, folks, I didn't think about these being so small. Okay, there we go. That popped out, yes. Okay, now, how do I hold them in a way that you can see them? I'm learning lots of new things. Thanks for being patient with me. So here is the pig. And again, the first critter that we had is a bear. And you'll notice they have some printing on them. He's got nice yellow eyes. Yes. Yes. Lead soldiers, lead animals, all this sort of stuff was popular in the 30s and 40s. And originally, this one says USA on it. This is the horse. And yes, believe it or not, lead. Maybe it wasn't the greatest thing to have your kiddies play with. And actually, when they say lead, oftentimes these have no lead in them. They're just called that because they would use various soft metals, but sometimes they were lead. They would use lead or tin or zinc or something really soft and easy to mold. And there you go. This also says USA, and that is a cow. Thank you. Is it a cow? It is indeed. So we have 4 animals, and they're very cute. I could see somebody doing a fun project with them, or just displaying them. It's the type of thing, if you're in farm country, that might be fun for you, or if you just have something that you want to do. Now, what you don't want to do is you probably don't want to let your kids play with these, because if there wasn't lead in the stuff, there probably was in the paint back then. It's amazing any of us have any brain cells left, but somehow we survived. So we have 4 of them in the grouping here. The pig, and the bear is about to eat the pig because I cannot seem to hold all of these at once. All these things I have to learn, like how many of these things that you can do. There we go. All right, I think you can see all 4 of them at the same time. So these 4 are currently at $6. Interesting. I know Cheryl had asked about Paul Frank, and that's interesting. Alphabets. I feel like I've heard of that store. That's a very interesting thing to know. In any event, the 4 items, we have a current price of $6, and we're getting close to the end because I just can't hold these up any longer than this.
So one of them is a bear?
There's a bear, a pig, a cow, and a horse.
The pig is black.
The pig is black.
Okay. Different colors. They're all different colors.
They're all different colors. Yes, that's right. And I'm still not convinced this is a cow. I don't see any udders. I'm thinking...
Well, it's a male cow.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe it's a sheep or something.
Oh. Really? Oh.
I think so, because it doesn't have any udders. It would be a very unproductive cow.
It would just have one udder anyway.
Well, I'm not going there, but sure. Anyhow, can I turn red on camera? Oh, yes, I can. In any event, we are at $6, and we're getting pretty close to the end here. If anyone else is interested, let us know. Otherwise, we're going to ring that bell. And there it goes. So very good. Well, we will put these aside for you, Nat, and I am going to set them down because that was really interesting and a little awkward. But we will have a little more music here, and that won't be awkward at all. Okay, well, we have a few more things still, so we will keep on going here. The next one we're going to do, I'm going to do like we did before on the eggs, and we'll try to make it very clear. The price is for one, but you get to choose which one you want if you are the high bidder on these. These are, again, Franklin Mint, and they are butterflies this time. And there are two different varieties. The one on your left, in my right hand, is one of the painted ones that is done on the stand. And so it can lay flat on a table or sit on a stand. And they're very elegant and very nicely done. And the other one is the one where they did it on the flower, so a little more naturalistic looking. So it's just a question of personal taste, but the current price on these is $6. The country of origin on this one, the green one on the stand, is Taiwan. And Taiwan is a mark that I never thought I would see the day where Taiwan was vintage, but it is, because things made in Taiwan now say China, because mainland China wants it that way. They wanted there to not be a distinction between the two, and they basically have badgered everybody into accepting that. And part of the reason is that they felt that there might be anti-Chinese sentiment, but if the things are made in Taiwan and Taiwan is our friend, then they can sell them because they say China too. So you do not see made in Taiwan on new items anymore. So Taiwan actually is vintage. These are from the late 1980s, and the current price is $6. Whoever decides, if anyone decides they want these, whoever is the high bidder will get their choice of one or both. And they're a little different from each other, so I thought that would make that more interesting potentially. The one with the gilding, that is actually 22 or 24 karat gold paint that's done on the edge. I'm going to set the other one down for a moment and take this off its stand. They use the they use the gold paint. It's basically flowing gold suspended in paint, and it is 22 or 24 karat, so there is a little bit of cost to make these because of that. However, this is not something that you can value for gold prices, because if you tried to get the gold off in the paint suspension, it would simply burn away and you can't really retrieve it. So that's why when you see weeping gold and that sort of thing, it is genuinely made with actual karat gold weight in it, but it is not in a form that you can actually do anything with, so it doesn't sell for the price of gold. Just bought a Fitz & Floyd Unicorn cookie jar marked Taiwan. Yes, that's a good piece. Actually, a lot of Fitz & Floyd was made in Taiwan in the late 80s and early 90s. It had all been made in Japan in the 70s and 80s, and then Japan became a wealthy country and could not afford that kind of handwork, and so that went to Taiwan as well. So yes, there are things made in Taiwan that are collectible, and this is one of them, and you can see that mark on the back. And then the other one is more of a porcelain bisque as opposed to a high-fired porcelain like the first one. And this one is on the flower with I like the antenna on these. I always thought that was kind of neat. They did birds on these as well, and they are somewhat fragile, so finding them in good condition is not always the easiest trick. You really have to look here, because a lot of times they just use porcelain slip to attach the one piece to another, and it was really easy if you were careless to break that. So a lot of times they have been actually glued back together, and so you have to be careful of that. And that's why these are collectible now, is because a lot of them have actually had a tough life. So they are $6 each choice if anyone is looking for butterflies. I know real butterflies seem to be in short supply these days, and so it's nice to see butterflies even if they are ceramic. So we're going to give this just a moment longer, and if anyone is interested, please let us know. Otherwise we will move on, because as much fun as this is, it is getting rather late, and we want to make sure that we get to show you a few more things. Yes, that reminds me of that horrible game show that I used to have to watch when I was sick and had to stay home. I shouldn't say it's horrible. It's still very popular and a ton of people really love it. And apparently it is all real. They did some sort of an investigation and The Price is Right is not made up. Yes, well, I saw the note about the potty breaks and snack breaks, and that is a very good idea. So yes, I'm liking this format too. And for me, it's a chat break because it means I get to spend a little time chatting with you. I am planning on taking an actual break this week and being away, so I figured I better enjoy it while I can. And speaking of things I enjoy, this is made by a company that I was introduced to because they do a line of figural paperweights, mostly critters like frogs and fish and interesting animal type things. This is by a company called Royal Crown Derby, and it has a mark on the back. Now this one's 1992, which is fairly late in their production. But Royal Crown Derby had been around for a very, very long time when this was made. And this is very indicative of their wear. The colors were based on Imari porcelain from Asia. And they would use, again, real gold paint to do all of these highlights. And then the Imari red color and the very, very deep navy blue. And the styles are also very Orientalist in nature. Orientalist is rather an old-fashioned term. We say Asian now, but Orientalism is actually a design movement. So it is correct in that context, although a little bit archaic. But I just think that their work is really nicely done. We are starting it at $8. It's a little pin dish. It's about 4.5 or 5 inches around, and the fluted edge is nice. The reason that they were so interested in these Asian-inspired designs is that the English worked for centuries trying to figure out how to make porcelain, and in the meantime they were importing porcelain from Asia, particularly from the port of Canton on the south coast of China, and that had been going on really almost since Marco Polo had done the opened up the trade routes to Asia, and then they would send it on ships after that. Now you hear a lot of times that they would send this stuff as ballast in ships, and that's true, but that's not because it was cheap. Actually, Asian porcelain, because the English didn't know how to make it until the around 1800 themselves, was very highly prized. And if you were an important family, you would have your armorial crest painted on a set of china, for example. And it was a big deal to have porcelain. This is at a time when most people are still eating off of wooden bowls that they made out of tree branches. So this is kind of a big deal for its time. And so that's the heritage behind the Royal Crown Derby. And it's just a pretty piece. So it's a current price of $8. I know that we're...
Is that more of an orange or...
Well, it's what they call Imari red, but it goes more to orange, yes. It's really a red-orange. And that was a very popular color in Oriental design as well.
And what would that be used for?
Well, this could be used for as a pin dish, as a coaster. I believe that this was actually a presentation piece originally, and that's why it has the 3rd anniversary mark on the back. I am not sure what Pearson KK was, but this would have been in their line and as a stock piece, and then somebody gave it as some sort of an anniversary presentation. But the uses for this are really just anything you would use a little dish on a boudoir, or maybe for a little bit of sauce on the table, that sort of thing. They are perfectly fine to eat off of, by the way. That stuff is under a glaze, so you're not going to have paint get in your food or anything. And they are really pretty pieces. At some point I'll try to find another. I think I just sold the last of the figural paperweights I had by this company, but at some point I'll try to find some more so that I can share those as well. And by the way, if you folks are enjoying this sort of thing and getting to see items and purchase, I do have for my level 2 members on the main channel, I do a monthly sale where I have 20 items that I list and put up on eBay, so you can follow the bids and see how that goes there. So
members, explain that more in more detail.
Oh yes, that's right. Well, on the main channel there are a couple of different membership tiers, and there are various perks that go along with them, and you can click the join button or look at the link in the description, and it'll take you to where you can see what membership is about. It's just a nice way to give something back to people who support the channel, and so that's why I do the 20 item listing on eBay, and I try to find things that are a little more interesting and unique and talk about them in some detail. So there's a video associated with that as well.
And the level 2 members get early access. That's the key to that.
Oh yes, that's right. I guess that is really important to say.
It's fun. No ads.
Yes, no ads. That part is nice. Okay, well, I know we're winding down, and I know we don't have a whole lot of people with us at this late hour, so we're going to move on, but we'll play a little more music, and then we have 2 more items left that I want to share with you that I think are interesting and fun from other parts of the world. Well, it's so fun having viewers from all over the world for this. I just really love that because we all get to talk about different things that we see, different experiences, different cultures. And I am especially enjoying having Canadians in the chat. Cheryl, you probably saw my comment. Because I lived in a border state, we actually were required to study Canadian history in fifth grade, of all places. So early, which I really got fascinated with, and I have been very interested ever since, and ended up taking another course on it in college. And your history is quite fascinating, actually. And with that in mind, the last two items I have are actually from other countries as well. So let's start with this one. This bright and happy critter, this turtle or tortoise, is a mola from Panama. I wanted to show this in part to show what a mola is, and it's great because it's unframed, so you'll get to see how they're actually made. I also wanted to show it because I really offended a viewer in a video recently by erroneously saying that they were from Mexico, which I know better. I was thinking of huichol art, which is a different thing entirely. Molas are embroidery, and they basically use various levels of fabric and then embroider them and cut them out for the design. So you'll see here, because this is unframed, that there are various layers of color in here, all of these different scraps of fabric. These were done by, I believe it's the San Blas Indians, who are a tribe, I believe, in the southern part of Panama, south of the canal. But you can see how all of these different layers are stitched together and embroidered in order to make this very colorful, fun piece. And they were sold as tourist items. And for a long time, they were considered just sort of obscure. Well, now they're very collectible, and people are really enjoying them. I have rather a large stack of them right now. And so I decided to bring this one out. This is the first one I've had out for sale. It's a nice small size, about 7 inches by 6 inches. Most people frame these and hang them as wall art, but I have seen them used in other ways. You will see sometimes purses made out of them, or they'll use them as a panel of fabric in a piece of clothing. You will see people actually frame them under glass and use them as coasters, as another thing I've seen. So people are finding lots of inventive ways to use molas. And then if you look on the back, you can see all of the hand stitchery that goes into it. So it is real handwork. And like everywhere else, we're finding that a lot of the Latin American countries are starting to get away from handwork and get more into manufacturing jobs because they're getting that sort of factory production down there. And so we're losing a lot of the people who actually did this type of art. So it's a fun piece, it's a colorful piece, and it's something that I enjoy. The current bid on it is $12. In this size, they typically go for, about 15 to 20 on the resale market. I would say that these are probably 30 years old because of the source. They've been making them for several generations, but they've really become, with the rise of outsider art and animation as art, these sorts of things are becoming more and more popular. So
what is it again? What is it used for again? I missed that part of the explanation.
Well, in the tradition, they were used as art pieces or to be made into clothing or small purses or bags. People are using them for lots of other things now, but that was their original purpose. And it's rather similar in some ways to the Seminole work, where they use scraps of fabric to make their clothing. The Seminole used lots of really tiny scraps to make very elaborate, colorful jackets, whereas these folks had access to a little more material and then put them together into these types of creations. So it's a neat piece. I don't know if we have anyone out there at this late hour who's interested in it, but if you are, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll go back to music, and then we'll have one final item for you. All right, folks. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I have one more item I want to show before it's bedtime. It's about 1 in the morning, our time, so it's been a fun Friday night. And the last thing I'd like to show, which is going to start at a current price of $18, is this little box here. And I'll show you the side first, and you'll say, well, that's not very remarkable. But then we'll show you the top, and you'll see how great these really are. These are Russian lacquered enameled boxes, and they are all pretty much based on fairy tales. Now, there are a few exceptions. Sometimes you'll see scenes of the Kremlin. A lot of these were made in a few small towns in Russia, and you'll actually see the scenes from those towns as well. And some of them even have artist names. There's pretty good scholarship on these. Russian folk art and folklore are really interesting in terms of their design. I believe this, I can't say for certain. This may be Ivan and the Chestnut Horse. I don't know my Russian fairy tales as well as I should, but there's some great books on this stuff now. It became very popular to collect during the era of détente and when things started to thaw between the East and the West, but they'd actually been made for many, many years before. The detail and the intricacy is partly a reflection of the importance of the folk tales. It's also a reflection of the fact that these pieces were made largely by a peasant class for a very wealthy ruling class. If you think of things like Fabergé eggs, for example, they are beautiful and amazing, and they were made by very poor people for very wealthy people. So you can see why that didn't go over real well eventually. But this one is really nicely detailed. I always look for the detail in these. If the faces are well painted, because this is rather small, it's only about 3 inches around. It is a pin dish, so it's got the red lacquer inside. This one seems to be immaculate. It came from a collection out in Washington State that I just picked up last week, and I brought 4 of these back on the airplane. And this one was the smallest, but I thought it was also one of the most refined in terms of the design. And they're just beautiful. You can see all the stars in the background. I mean, it's a lot of little tiny stipple points with paint all of that hand painting of the gold and that very, very fine scroll work around the edge. So it really is an art, and it really is something worth respecting and collecting. And a lot of people are now. I actually sell these very well. I rarely keep one in stock for more than a show or two if I have a collection. And the rest of this collection is probably going to go to shows. So I'm glad that one piece is going to go to someone out in viewer land, and that's great. I'm really glad that you appreciate this too. I can't tell you a whole lot more about it because I'm not steeped in Russian folklore. But my personal favorite is the Firebird. I think that's just an amazing design. It has this huge grand tail that curls in all directions, and it also flies through the sky. So this one really jumped out at me because anything that is flying and bright red definitely gets my attention.
I have a Matryoshka set that I got when I was over there, and it's the black lacquer base color like that, and most of them weren't black, I mean, with the base like that, and I thought it was really great with the red, the pop,
yes,
the contrast.
That really is true, especially the Matryoshka, because this collection also did have a bunch of Matryoshka, so I got some, I think there were probably 24 of those, and there was one with a black field. You're right, it is not a color they used a lot with the Matryoshka. They're usually beiges and golds and reds in the background. So that sounds really neat. I'll have to see that sometime. But this one, I think it's very pretty, and it looks like it's going to go off to live with someone else, and I'm really glad. I think it's a beautiful piece. If anyone else is interested, let us know now. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up the bid on the final item of the evening, and then we'll chat for just a minute. And so, are we going to ring that bell? Oh, yeah. Okay. There we go. Well, very good. I am so glad that someone appreciated that. Yes. I'm so glad that so many of you were able to hang out with us so late. It's just really wonderful. And we had some new people who we haven't gotten to talk to before. This was a lot of fun. I like this format because I get to chat with you as well in between things. It's not just me talking. So that's really nice. And it's just been a real pleasure, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here with us on the Antique Nomad Live. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do, because a lot of the content that we do here, because it's live, has the potential to be spontaneous and not scheduled. So if you are able to do that with us, then you will be able to also click the bell and be notified when
I think George
happen.
is sinking down into the chair.
Well, it's kind of true, actually. I'm trying to give
motions over here.
I saw something that looked like I thought it was a prayer or something going on next to me. So apparently this means
pray for posture.
Sit up. Yes. Well, my posture and the rest of me is ready to be horizontal at this point. It has been a long day, but a very fun day. And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the music. Are we going to play everyone out? Or?
Well, Cheryl's asking if I like Predator, and I'm assuming she's asking about the Predator movie, not Alien versus Predator or anything. But yes, I do. I like all that stuff. George does not.
I'm not a big sci-fi guy. I like the accoutrements and the toys and the things that came from it. I saw Star Wars when it came out. I'll say that much. That was an amazing experience. A little tiny theater in Paulsbo, Washington that held about 100 people, and there were probably 150 people in the theater. I'm sure the fire marshal was not alerted because they wouldn't have allowed it. It was just jam. People were standing in the aisles, and I remember it was the first movie I went to where people were really loud during the entire movie, just ooh and ah, and so taken and impressed by it all, and I was too. So, sci-fi is cool, but I'm kind of a grounded in reality guy. What can I tell you? When is the next sale? That's a really good question. I'm sure that we'll do this again fairly soon on a Friday night, or we'll have some sort of a thing during daytime at some point. I am planning on taking a little bit of time off this coming week. So we'll be back to doing more things like this soon, though, because it seems like it's been a lot of fun and everyone seems to be enjoying it, and I sure am. And I thank you all who purchased. Please do send your information to me at the antiquenomad@gmail.com so I can figure out shipping and get you invoices. I know several of you got multiple items, and we will combine shipping for you on those. And other than that, thank all of you for sticking with us and having fun with us late at night and into the wee hours of the morning. And
check out the other channel if you haven't. If somehow you found us here without knowing about the main channel, make sure you go over and subscribe to the main channel. That's the Antique Nomad.
Yes.
And every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern U.S., we have a premiere.
Yes, that's right. Except possibly this week if we'll see. If I can get something done before holiday time, I will. That's my desire. Whether reality will match that, we'll see. I've got a bunch of, I suddenly have a lot of appraisal jobs going right now, and I'm on deadline for a few of those. So it's just a race against time, but I will do my best, and we'll see you somehow, somewhere soon on either the Antique Nomad or the Antique Nomad Live.
Yes, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel and make sure you hit the bell, because we don't always plan to schedule the lives. This one, obviously, we're in the studio, we can do that, but we want to also do some things just sort of on the fly, out in the field, traveling, and that really just happens spontaneously. So make sure you hit the bell, and then you'll know about it. And any other questions before we bid you adieu?
Well, I guess, thank you. Off to sleep. Big auction hall to pick up lots of listings. Oh, that's great. Oh, wow. Yes, that's right. You're in Eastern time. Well, you have a good rest, and have fun with that auction hall, and have fun with the stuff that you're going to have sent from me. I'll have it in the mail to you. And thank you all very much again.
Yes, thanks to everyone who joined us, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Yes.
Have
Bye-bye
a good
now.
night.
Good night.